Hello to everybody, I'm Marco Beato. Welcome to a new episode on Understanding Sports Science. Today we will summarize some concept of this paper, Recommendation for the Design of Randomized Controlled Trials, which was published in Frontiers in 2022. Before to enter in the main topic and chat about randomized controlled trials, we need to start with a brief introduction. Research in strength conditioning has drastically increased over the last 20 years, leading many modern-day practitioners basing their exercise prescription on the most advanced and updated scientific evidence. Sport practitioners are seeing the field in medicine, for example, have embraced the use of evidence-based practice to improve the likelihood of success of their training prescription. However, sports science is affected by popular beliefs, myths, and poor quality evidence. To contrast the spread of this low quality evidence, we need to increase the quality of our research. But what are some of the reasons why the quality of our article in sports science is sometimes low? I have reported here some of the reasons of this problem. For instance, the author knowledge of research method or statistics is inadequate. The resources invested in this research are limited. The research was carried out in a hurry, which could be related to many reasons. For instance, several studies are performed by students who have limited time and experience when performing data recording. But what are the most common limitations of strength conditioning studies, in particular intervention studies like randomized controlled trials? The first one is, for example, the length, duration of a study that is frequently too short. We have too many studies that are very, very short, 4, 6, maximum 8 weeks, and that this is not enough. We should have longer randomized controlled trials. A second problem is the low number of participants enrolled. For example, the calculation of the sample power is also frequently missing. This is a massive limitation. Third problem is the lack of a control group in the study design. And when we are talking about randomized controlled trials, a control group is very important. With such limitation in mind, the effective intervention is often influenced by other factors not associated with the protocol that can undermine the evidence robustness. A suggestion that I would like to make at this stage is to embrace open science in our research. Open science is the movement to make scientific research and its dissemination accessible to all levels of society, amateur or professional. Open science is transparent and accessible knowledge that is shared and developed through networks. Some of the principles of open science is open source, for example, software like Mendeley for references or JASP for statistical analysis that are software that I use in my research. Open methodology, open peer review that some journals offer, open access journals, for example, Frontiers, +1, or other journals that you can find online, open educational resources, such as this YouTube channel where you can find free online lessons, or open data. Some journals, for example, require the submission of the database of your paper in order to check, for example, the quality of the data, and they allow the reviewer to perform some statistical analysis. In order to increase the quality of our intervention studies, we should focus on the design of RCT that follow the CONSOL guidelines, which mean Consolidated Standards of Reporting Trials. Here you can see the CONSOL 25 items checklist that authors should follow. This checklist is a very good way to structure your research paper in the right way and to don't miss any important point. Moreover, on the right, you can see the flowchart that is another key component of a well-presented and structured RCT. In this flowchart, we should report the subject included in the enrollment, the subject excluded before randomization, the randomization procedure and allocation, as well as the number of dropouts that the research team has recorded during the follow-up. On this slide, I would like to chat about 3 key points of RCT in strength conditioning or sports science. The first point is the need of conducting all 4 phases of RCT. The second is the need of a clear and precise randomization procedure. The third point is related to the use of a control group or an active control in our trials. Clinical trials are classified into phases based on the objectives of the trial. Phase 1 trials are the first studies that verify the effect of an intervention and are usually carried out involving small samples, for example, larger single group or control studies. Phase 2 trials involve a large sample, for example, randomized controlled trials, and aim to understand, for instance, the efficacy of an intervention versus a control. In this case, in this phase, a control is very important and needed, or the dose-response relationship between different doses and a control. Phase 3 trials should aim to confirm the efficacy of an intervention using a larger sample, for example, collaboration between research groups of different countries or within the same country. Phase 4 trials are confirmatory or registration trials. So in this case, a pre-registration should be needed and they should confirm the evidence reported in previous studies. If you want more information about this topic, there is a very nice paper published by Atkinson in 2008 or Evans in 2010. Let's come back to sports science, because obviously what I say so far is about clinic. In sports science, although a framework of this type doesn't currently exist, we could follow the same phases proposed in clinic in order to better standardize our procedure. Now it's time to introduce the concept of randomization. RCT are studies that aim to verify a research hypothesis in which a number of participants, for example athletes, are randomly assigned to some groups that correspond to some specific training protocol. For example, a RCT could compare an innovative resistant training method versus a control group or another training intervention. To verify the difference between this group, we need that researchers control for bias and confounding factors, and this can be done using a randomization procedures. So, how can we randomize our samples? Research and practitioners can use different types of randomization, such as simple, block, stratified, unequal randomization, and covariate adaptive randomization. Simple randomization is the easiest way to randomize your sample, for example, in two groups, flipping a coin. However, this approach sometimes doesn't work for small samples because you will have a group that is larger than the other. So you can use a blocked randomization that avoids this type of problem, or a stratified randomization that takes into account some additional confounding variable or factors that could affect the final results and the quality of your research. We have also other two methods called the first one, unequal randomization, that uses smaller randomization ratios, such as 2-to-1. In this case, you will have two subjects in the training group, one subject in the control group. And the last approach is called covariate adaptive randomization that requires some additional statistical skills. The last topic of this brief presentation is the use of a control group or an active control in randomized controlled trials. A control group, in particular for phase 1 and phase 2 studies, should avoid performing any relevant training protocol which could affect the validity of the trial. It is clear that if researchers don't know the efficacy of a new training method, they need to verify its effect versus a control group. However, in many cases, we know that a training method is effective. Therefore, designing trials with no intervention groups as control that involve athletes is sometimes impractical or also considered unethical. In this case, the researchers don't involve a no intervention group, but they compare the effect of a new intervention versus an intervention which has been proven to be effective before. So in this case, an active control, or another name that we can give to this active control is current best practice treatment. This is the last slide of this brief presentation. In the paper I've reported above, the one published in Frontiers, you can find much more information related to this topic. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this brief summary of the paper that I published. So, thank you very much for listening to this episode of Understanding Sports Science. If you are interested in this type of sports science lessons and you want to support open access, please subscribe to this channel. See you in the next episode. Thank you very much.